Welcome to the Space Shovel Podcast. This is episode 9. Today we're talking about the future of virtual tours with augmented reality. So today I have Dan, of course, and Morgan with us. So Morgan is our creative director for a portion of Avian called Seven Circus, a video production team. I'll let you chat more about that in a second. Of course, the Space Shuttle Podcast is brought to you by Avian, and we can hear more about that at the end of this episode. Dan, of course, is our VP of Strategic Innovation. And now, Morgan, is your time to shine and give us a little background about what you do for the company and maybe just a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about myself. I love long walks on the beach. No, I'm just kidding. As Ian said, I'm the creative director for Seven Circus, which is our video production team. We started out...
Seven Circus. Where's the name come from? I need to know.
It is compelling. So we started this to kind of differentiate ourselves in the government space specifically. So we were making little videos here and there, but we really wanted to go out and build that as a capability for the company, not just have our existing customers ask us questions or ask us to do products for them. So we wanted to come up with a unique identity for this group. And at the time when we started, we had 7 different video styles. And I always say we were a bunch of clowns, but we did think of ourselves kind of like a circus with multiple different acts. We've got video editors, producers, script writers, motion graphics, animators. So we kind of had all those different acts come together to produce this one great show. So
okay,
we thought it was funky.
Sense.
We thought it was fun.
Right.
It sounded better than Avian video production.
Right.
So we just wanted something a little bit different.
I buy it.
Yeah, so I think that was a great explanation of that team and what you do. Perfect. So today we're talking about augmented reality and virtual tours, which ties directly into some of the work that Morgan and her team have been doing recently. So it's a timely topic for us, and then augmented reality is just cool in general to talk about. Let's talk quickly about the differences between VR and AR. So VR being virtual reality, AR being augmented reality, or some people call it mixed reality. Virtual reality is where you have like the Oculus goggles and you can't see anything else besides what you're seeing in these goggles. AR, or augmented reality, is you have no one, I don't know that anyone's making them. Maybe some companies I'm just not familiar with. I think there's one called maybe Magic Leap that was doing something a few years ago. I don't know if they still are. But they're basically glasses that put things in the environment around you. So think like Pokemon Go, where you can hold up your phone and see the Pokemon on the street. So that's just a key difference between AR and VR. And I just didn't want
So is AR like Space Jam with Michael Jordan?
Yes, exactly. yes.
All right, got it.
So I just didn't want anyone to get confused about the difference or which one we were talking about today. Let's start with just general applications.
Which one are we talking about today?
AR.
Okay.
Let's talk about general applications. I have a ton of ideas, so I'll let you guys kick it off. I know we were talking about New York a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
So if you want to bring that up.
Oh, yeah. Well, just kicking off first off, my personal experience so far with AR is in shopping.
Yes.
So pandemic times were peak for me decorating my house. And I know like Wayfair is one company, or I think Target does it too, where select products, you can just like pop them right into your room so you can see how they play with the dimensions. So I'm no longer like taping things out with painter's tape on my floor. I can actually just pop it into the space. And I've also used...
So Morgan, how good does it work? Does it actually work?
That's a really good question. The only thing that I have projected into a room that actually obtained was a French bulldog.
Nice.
I was on Google one day and I was like Googling, before I got my dog, I was Googling like different facts, and it's like, you can see what one of these would look like in your space. And I was like, okay. That said, the projection that they put did look like a little demon dog. It was the most terrifying like 3D projection of a dog they ever could have given me. But I would say that the size was about accurate.
Okay.
I did not, anything furniture-wise that I could project, I never purchased. So I think it just kind of gives you a general idea. I would use it more for like, does this style or color go, as opposed to like actual space.
Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like a 5.
I would say it was like 6.
6? Okay. Gotcha.
Not excellent, but we're not completely failing.
Okay, good.
Then I've also used it for testing out makeup shades. So in the pandemic, you could not go into a store and
See
try
that for
anything.
you, right, Dan?
You couldn't go into a store and try anything on, but you could sit in your living room and just swipe like, okay, nope, this one's too
So it's
pink,
like a
this one's too
Snapchat
peach.
filter where
Yeah. It is. So that was fun. But I think there are way more cool things you can do other than buy furniture and try on makeup.
Right.
Certainly there are for me.
What do you
Because I
got?
wouldn't do neither of those two things.
So the one,
All right.
the idea that I have, most of the ideas I have revolve around virtual tours and like how AR could be big in like a museum setting, or we're in St. Mary's County, Maryland. We have St. Mary's City here. You're walking down the path and things just start popping up. I don't know if it's just facts that are text-based or if it's like an actual recreation of something that happened, but all this happens in augmented reality. So it gives you a little bit more interactiveness of the tour. I don't know if that's a word, but
Interactivity. I think that's accurate.
Interactivity. Thank you. So a little bit more engagement with the tour, that you're seeing things happen technically, I guess, or not technically, in augmented reality.
So do we think that people want that? Do we think that people, when they're heading down, we'll use St. Mary's City, you're heading down whatever path that is, and there's like the buildings and stuff that are there, that if you put your AR glasses on, you would see a family interacting, or, you know, a guy cutting tobacco like they did back there. Do you think people want that? Or let me say it differently. Do you think enough people want that? Because certainly some people want that.
Right.
Do you think enough people want that to have this image projected into what would otherwise be a natural event?
I think of, so in a smaller place like St. Mary's City or something where you would have a guide, I think, sure, maybe the, especially cost value isn't necessarily there to justify how many people would want it. But then I think about like Gettysburg. So you can go to Gettysburg and, you know, get your little radio program or buy, you know, the little narration through an app. But what if you had a little bit more than a narration? And I do know that like in a place like that, the guided tours are much more expensive.
Yeah.
So maybe that exists as a midpoint where like people, it's enough of a significant location where people are drawn to it from varied places.
Yeah, so that, you know what, Morgan, you bring up a great point. And maybe, at least for me, I would draw the distinction between outside and inside. A few years ago, we had the opportunity to do the dusk tour at Alcatraz.
Ooh.
Which in and of itself was a little bit creepy, because you start at dusk. By the time you get there, it's about dark, and when you're there, it's dark, and when you come back from Alcatraz, it's dark.
Right.
Now, if you had an AR glasses walking through Alcatraz to see some of the weird stuff that happened in Alcatraz, that would be cool, I think.
Yeah.
And one little tidbit for that, only on the dusk tour, which is like no kids allowed, only on the dusk tour, no little kids, do they take you to the tour of the Alcatraz hospital, which in and of itself was creepy.
Yeah.
So I think for a creepiness factor, all right, I'll bite on the AR.
So interesting.
Yeah.
What if
but
it was
maybe not makeup?
Have you ever been to the Baltimore Aquarium and did the 4D experience, where you get in there and it's like it's a movie theater, but all the seats have like little mist sprayers and they shake, and there's like little fans that blow air on you. So when you're watching this underwater tour or whatever, you get splashed with water and hit in the face with some air. What if that happened at Alcatraz? So like
that would be cool.
Dan would lose his mind.
That would be cool.
So somebody, like, you see somebody in AR like run past you and you feel wind blow past your face or something like that.
That would be cool.
Yeah. I mean,
sign me up for that.
right.
I mean, better than a dude cutting tobacco.
Yes.
Is my point.
Yes.
Yeah, perhaps the key is creating experiences that you couldn't experience in any other way.
Right.
Because my ultimate dream is to be able to put on a pair of glasses and like essentially change my time in history.
Yes.
During the pandemic last year, I just can't stop talking about the pandemic, watched the most boring, long, but interesting to me documentary on the history of New York City. And it started off with when it was completely undeveloped, and walked you all the way through modern day. And I was like, I wish I could just go down one street in New York and just see what this would have been like at any different time. And I'm never going to be able to experience that in any recreation of any, actors talking to me and anything like that. But like, if I could just see what like all the architecture would have looked like, or, what did Wall Street look like, 300 years ago?
Right.
Just a bunch of trees.
Yeah.
That would just be super cool to me. So maybe looking for those unique things that couldn't be given to you by a tour guide or things like that.
Yeah.
But that would be more VR
Definitely.
as opposed to AR.
Yes.
Because if it was AR, that'd be like that's a whole different black hole discussion.
Yes, and I feel like there would just be too many things popping up
Yes.
on the real world view that you get.
So let's quickly focus on the actual title of the episode, virtual tours. Morgan,
Yes.
do you want to talk a little bit about the work that your team is doing in
Absolutely.
that realm right now?
Yep. So we just produced 3 virtual tours for some of the labs here at the Pax River base, and during COVID, schools were shut down, the base was totally locked down, and a STEM education outreach group typically runs field trips on a daily, weekly basis where students are able to come and see the work that's being done here and understand, future career opportunities that they might have here. So they didn't want to stop the ability to convey that information. So we went in, we interviewed all of the experts, took, multiple shots of all the labs, took people, totally through them, and created what I would kind of consider to be documentary style virtual tours. But what if we could up the ante a little bit, put a pair of glasses on, and now you're able to walk through at a specific point and talk to a person.
Right.
And, even when the world goes back to normal, wouldn't it be great if we could bring the students in and folks could continue working? We wouldn't have to disrupt the work schedule of the people that work in the lab, but we could still get all that information nicely conveyed to them.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. And maybe even take it a step further. If the tour then progresses to the flight line, and you could actually have people walk down the flight line without too much of an issue, I would think. But then as part of the AR, if an A-18 Super Hornet goes flying by at 630 knots just below the speed of
Right.
sound. And then if you go 4th dimension, you get like this whoosh of hot air that goes
Yeah. Oh,
by
yeah.
along with the sound. Well, that'd be like being at a Blue Angels event.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a ton of innovations that could happen in this area. I like both of those ideas. But again, you're taking the tour guide aspect out of it. Obviously, you have to have some sort of chaperone. You can't just walk around a Navy base without somebody guiding you. But maybe, and I don't know which companies are working on AR. I'm thinking possibly Apple or Google, those big guys. So Siri eventually gets a face. Now Siri's your tour guide. She pops up when important information is available. So you're walking down a hallway. To the left, there's some sort of lab, and Siri just pops up and like, hey, here's this lab. Here's some information about it. Again, the interactivity of, now I have a new word, interactivity of that just seems a lot more cool than a normal tour guide in my
Yeah, I would agree with you, except sometimes when you go on a tour and you have a tour guide
That's really good.
spectacular.
Yeah.
So what you're trying to do is eliminate the substandard tour guide
Yes.
and make everybody's tour experience spectacular.
Yeah.
Because you take the spectacularness of the really good tour guide
And standardize it.
and standardize it, and then everybody sort of rises up. So that might be a real world application
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah.
Most folks have been on like a cheesy Disney World like boat tour, like down the river, and the
Yes.
guy's like, "Watch out! Here comes the alligator! Oh no, the alligator!" Some of those guys are really funny.
Yeah.
Some, but if they could all be really funny, then you're sort of up in the game. So
Right.
Disney, if you're listening, you guys should
mean,
think about that.
Is this part of Jurassic Park? I don't remember the last time I watched it, but the little DNA guy pops up and he starts talking. I
It is
imagine
part where they-
something like that.
Yeah, where they talk about extracting from the
Right.
the orange stuff. What was that called? The orange stuff in Jurassic Park.
I don't know. I was talking about makeup.
I don't know either, but
I could see us taking the virtual tour one step further into the VR realm,
Yeah.
where now maybe the kids are sitting in the classroom, they get to do the complete and utter cool walkthrough, and then maybe they get to go to a meeting with the spectacular guy. And after they have all, walk through, have some questions, now they can have a substantive conversation
Could
with
be
the
a
best
spectacular
person
woman.
they have. Absolutely.
Okay.
yeah, and that definitely ups it in the accessibility area. So maybe the classroom isn't in Maryland. Maybe it's in a state that's 10 hours away, but they still want the same experience. Now you have a VR version of the same tour that you're giving, and it's just as spectacular in VR as it is in person.
Yeah, so that's a really good idea. So there's sort of the door is cracking open, right, for this entire field. You know, at some point, things are going to explode, and you'll be able to do exactly what you said.
Yeah, and I think I can think of like countless applications for VR tours, from touring a college and a university. Maybe it is out of state, and
Right.
it would be much easier to do a quick walkthrough before you actually go to see if it's even interesting enough to you. I could also see, using them to orient new employees to a workplace, whether it's somewhere like a hospital, maybe a production facility or a factory, something where safety and spatial awareness is going to, be important to that person coming on for their first day and doing their job. I could see it being super valuable.
Yeah.
So, Morgan, do you differentiate between a VR tour and a video? Because you can go on to, I don't know, pick a place, Stanford University's website. I'm guessing there are probably bunches of videos to walk through
Right.
Stanford's campus. Compared to VR. Tell me how you differentiate those, if you do.
Yeah, I do. I would say that the major difference is Ian's word of the day, interactivity. Me just watching something that you have created for me would be a video, but me being able to kind of choose my own path and go whichever way I want would be, to me, more of the VR experience. I'm also thinking right now about like real estate tours, how if you go through a 360 tour of a home, you can click from point to point, and I get to choose which points are most important to me, which way I want to go. But if you take that and apply it to something like touring Stanford, where, I'm going point to point, but I'm also learning about the different things that I want to learn about. Maybe
Gotcha.
I've got my dorm specs here, or this hall was built in this year, and here are all of the great things inside of it. So I can choose to go in that hall and look at all the labs, or, I can't. But if I've created a video for you, maybe I don't even touch any information that's in that hall that was most important to you.
Okay, so what about like the medical field? If you're a surgeon and either AR or VR surgical procedures, like you're going to get a arthroscopic knee surgery, and the surgeon, somebody's got to be first,
Yes.
right? You would hope that first person wasn't first. So now they use cadavers, and those are expensive and it's hard. But I wonder if VR will be something for the medical field one day, where they're practicing on that.
So you're hitting on a topic I was going to bring up, so thank
Oh.
you for that.
And,
Excellent
not,
segue.
Not pre-planned.
But I agree with you. So not only that, but let's tie the LiDAR conversation back into it.
Okay.
You brought up the fact that maybe one day you go to a doctor's office, you get a full body scan in LiDAR,
Right.
and they have that in a database somewhere. So now when you do break a bone, your information's already in the system. The doctor, a lot of the time, practices if it's a complicated procedure.
Right.
And now he can do it in either VR, AR, or some sort of mixed reality there. The other application, well, I'll bring that up. Anything else or any more on what I just said?
No, I think you're right. And I think, look, I'll be long dead by then, but you guys will still be around.
Ian and
It'll
I'll
be
be
cool.
frozen until that's a reality.
So the other thing I was about to say about the health industry or the medical industry, for a long time, we've been playing around with this idea of remote surgeries. So now, again, along the same lines, you have this exact replica in augmented reality, and maybe the doctor's in a completely different country using robot technology to do a surgery on somebody in a different country.
Yeah, so I agree with you that there's real opportunity there. We should be careful, though, because from a naval aviation perspective, and I guess it would be virtual reality, when we have like the best flight simulators in the world, where somebody's sitting in there with a real seat and a real cockpit, and it has all the appropriate G forces that could put in. They've still found that even though you have pilots that have hours and hours and hours upon hours in the simulator, there's a certain floor that they must have of real flying, or there are safety implications.
Right.
So we can't go all the way to that end, because it just, at least for flying aircraft, it becomes unsafe.
That makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So Morgan, even though you'd like to virtually walk through New York City, at some point
I have to go
you
there.
have to go to New York City. And even though you would virtually test makeup on, when you get to New York, you're going to go to the Sephora and have them try a bunch of stuff out in real life.
In real life. Well, who's going to make me the time machine so that I can go back into the historical periods that I
Document
want?
everything.
Yeah. Can we talk? That be our next
talk about
podcast?
I cannot help
time
you.
machines,
I
right.
cannot help you with the time machine. I'm sorry.
We'll call it Doc. The other thought I had relating it to the Navy, and maybe just mechanics in general, but using augmented reality to do maintenance. So like it's now you have a scan of your vehicle. It could be a jet. It could be a everyday car. But now you're getting this scan of the vehicle. It knows what it's supposed to look like. So then the augmented reality points out exactly what needs to be fixed.
Yeah, so that's already a thing.
Okay.
And I'll point out to my friends in Florida at a company called Beast Code. So Google that and go look them up. There's a company called Beast Code. So they do that already. It's virtual reality with exactly as you said, being able to train a mechanic how to fix something and what the right order is to do things. You know, if it's a valve, the right way to turn it. If it's flow in the pipes, the way the flow is flowing, those guys down there are super smart and have done some really good work. So we're already heading down that path. Now that's cutting edge stuff.
Yeah,
cutting edge, and they don't even need to scan it. They can take the drawings and the CAD drawings and the 3-dimensional models that are already in existence and turn it into that virtual reality. It's really cool.
Interesting. Yeah. So I think again, there's a lot of different ways that we could take AR. Shopping is probably the extent of it right now. Shopping in video games, I think. But we'll see what the future holds for us. Any last minute thoughts on this subject?
I don't think so.
I'm good.
You good? All right. I think if that's it, then we will wrap this up on the next episode. Dan doesn't know this, but we're going to talk about cryptocurrency and the wave that brings to everything. We talked about in the last episode where the ransom was paid in Bitcoin. What does that mean? So we'll talk about that next episode. Thank you for joining us. Dan, Morgan, thanks for being on. I'll see everybody next time. Hey, Space Shuttle watchers, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you have an extra second, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, stay up to date on the Work Awesome Network, on everything that's going on. If you want to learn more about the company behind the Work Awesome Network and behind the Space Shuttle podcast, jump over to avian.com, avian.com, to learn about the company, to learn about the work that we do, and just to get a little bit more background information on the type of company that we are. Again, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you want to stay up to date on everything going on in the Work Awesome Network, please jump over to any social media site that you consume content on: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're basically on all of them under Work Awesome Network. That's the place to get the latest updates, the latest blog posts, the latest information on everything going on Work Awesome related. Now back to this episode.